Hello and welcome back to the Debrief here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward K, and I'm joined by the Liverpool Echoes, Theo Squires, and today we're going to be discussing what is another disappointing draw in the Premier League for Liverpool. They're fourth in their opening 7 games, and I'm going to start, Theo, by just asking you, for your overall thoughts on what was, while a very entertaining game of football, another disappointing draw for the Reds.
Yeah, it's a strange afternoon, really, because you're feeling that Liverpool could have got 3 points without playing well, but then at the same time, they could have easily lost by 4 goals or something ridiculous today because they were that atrocious in the first half, and Alisson's had to bail them out quite a few times. Like Brighton could have easily been 3-0 up when you look at some of the saves he's made from, I think, Pascal Gross, from Leandro Trossard as well. Trossard's got a hat-trick here today. Danny Welbeck's gone close a couple of times. But Brighton weren't superb. Liverpool just made them look really good because of how bad they were in that first half. And there's certainly something lacking in this Liverpool team at the moment. Like, they don't have that belief to get the victories and see out games. And it's strange saying that when they've somehow found a way to go from 2-0 down to being 3-2 up. But there was never really a belief in the stadium that they would turn it around to that extent, that they would hold on and get the victory. When Brighton equalised and made it 3-3, there was no feeling here that, Liverpool are going to go and get a last-minute winner. It's just another mismatched performance. They weren't at the best. Some all right individual performance, but they're not playing like a team. Teams are working out how well to play against them. Like this formation of Brighton, the 5-man defence, that really exposed Liverpool at points today against the fullbacks because you just had 2 of them running at Tsimikas and Alexander-Arnold on both flanks with the wingers not coming back. The midfield, even though they had the extra body in there, they looked anonymous in that first half. And while things improved in the second half, it still wasn't enough to say this is drop points from Liverpool. Like on paper, yes, they've dropped a couple of points, but they didn't necessarily deserve to win. You'd probably say they deserve more to lose. It's a strange one, but it's just their season so far. This is the 2 months we've had so far. And Brighton have had a great start to the season. Right, they're up in the top 4 contention. That's where Liverpool should be. Instead, they're mid-table, level on points, I think, with Bournemouth. The only reason they're ahead of Bournemouth is because they put 9 goals past them a few weeks ago. That's how surreal this season's been so far. And when you look at the next 2 league games, Arsenal, who are 4 points clear of the top of the table. Man City, if they can't turn it on against Brighton, they're going to have to against the 2 teams that are leading the title at the moment. It's not been a great start. We know this. And yeah, just run out of things. You've run out of excuses for it, really, because you can't blame it on injuries anymore. Players are coming back from injury, and Liverpool still look disjointed.
Yeah, you say you've run out of excuses, but I'm going to bring up one that people might point to. Obviously, we've been missing that sort of fast start in Liverpool side this season. Obviously, before the international break, they were having trouble doing that. But obviously, again, another poor start, conceding early. To what extent do you think that can be put down to maybe a bit of rustiness, having not played in about a month in the Premier League, but also, does seem to be more symptomatic of the season as a whole, so far. So to what extent do you think Liverpool have got a real problem there with how they're starting games?
You'd say it's not because of the international break and rustiness if it has been a one-off. It's the sort of thing we normally see in the 12:30 kickoffs when Liverpool haven't played for a bit. They lack a bit of momentum and they put in that sort of start. But this has been a recurring trend now since we're probably talking about April, aren't we? I think the last time Liverpool comfortably won a game was obviously Bournemouth. But it's 12 games in 15 where they've conceded the first goal. Must be 5 or 6 when they've conceded in the opening 5 minutes alone. They're just not starting games well at all. They've been too slow. They've been sluggish. And teams know if you attack Liverpool hard, you can unsettle them. And because the seed has now been planted, that unsettles them even more. It used to be Liverpool's trademark to come out traps flying, to get the early goals, put teams under pressure, press hard, and then they just run away with victories themselves and they'd have a grip on the games. We think of these great fixtures we've seen against Man City in the past. That has been the Liverpool trademark start, when they've just been so good from that opening whistle and they've not let anyone have a moment to breathe, a moment to think. But now they're on the receiving end of that and they haven't been able to cope with it. Brighton, it was the first goal. It's one where Trent heads the ball clear and it looks like the first job's done. But then Henderson can't clear the second ball. Trent slips, he gets turned too easily, and it's an easy finish across goal. The second one, Trent can't get the ball away, he isn't really aware of what's around him. It's just individual errors. Even the third one, Van Dijk doesn't get the cross out. I know that's not early in the game, it's not Liverpool trailing, but it's individual errors that have cost Liverpool today. It's defensive slip-ups that shouldn't be happening when you're a team that was in a Champions League final last year, that could have won the Premier League on the last day of the season, that won 2 domestic cups. Maybe it's a hangover from that because They didn't have the longest of pre-seasons and still suffering the effects. They had to play so much football. But something isn't right in this Liverpool team at the moment. And while we have had the excuses of injuries in the opening weeks of the season, that excuse is still going to run out. And if they're still going to be starting games like this, starting slowly, conceding sloppy goals, there's only so many times you concede 2 goals, be 2-0 down, and still get a share of the spoils. They're lucky today they're getting a draw. Better teams would have run away with this and could have put 3 or 4 past them before Liverpool even had time to get one back. But it's just, I don't know. There's no real answer to it. I know Jurgen Klopp said in his press conference in the week, there's some things that you can explain. There are some things you can't explain. At the moment, the things you can't explain are stacking up. And they need to work hard on it behind the scenes to get the real Liverpool back out there. But there isn't the time to do it on the training pitch because they play again in a couple of days against Rangers. Yes, they've had this month off, and that was supposed to be the time for them to regroup. And on the basis of the evidence we've seen today, they haven't been able to regroup efficiently enough to put this sluggish form behind them. Something's got to give, and at the moment, it's just the same old.
Yeah, like you say, something's got to give. And at half-time for Liverpool today, it was Fabio Carvalho that had to come off for Luis Diaz. Obviously, a young player, you never really want to see anybody brought off at half-time. And how do you think Carvalho is going to take that, being brought off at half-time, and obviously seeing Liverpool improve so much with him having gone off?
It's a hard one for him. Like I've said, from what I've seen of him, he looks better through the middle. He's still a very young lad, and he's still a bit lightweight. And you put him against a big Brighton defence, 3 centre-backs, he's going to find things a little bit tough. And Liverpool, when they do favour the experience, he's the obvious one to make way when you want to make a change. If it hadn't been for the internationals, he wouldn't have started this game. He's only started because Diaz was playing early hours of Wednesday, got back early hours of Thursday, didn't train until Friday, is probably suffering from a bit of jet lag because Diogo Jota and Darwin Núñez got knocks on international duty and weren't fit enough to start. That's the only reason he started today. But he can't take it to heart too much at the same time either. Like, I know that's 2 starts for him and he's been subbed off at half-time both times, but he's still learning his trade in the Premier League. He's a squad player. He's going to get opportunities. He's going to get starting opportunities. And it's about turning these opportunities and making more of a meaningful impact. Sometimes he's going to be substituted early because he's the easier one to take off. Like, you're hardly going to take off Mohamed Salah or Roberto Firmino in those circumstances, are you? He is the obvious one. But at the same time, he wasn't the problem today. Like, he was in and out of the game. His touch wasn't there at times. And he wasn't linking up as well as he could. But the midfield was anonymous in that first half. Like, Fabinho was poor. Jordan Henderson was poor. The fullbacks were shocking. But then there's no one obvious you can say, we can put on for Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example, because Calvin Ramsey, even if he was fit, he's only an 18-year-old who's not played in the Premier League before. Andy Robertson's injured on the other side. They've just got too many players who are out of form in these key positions at the moment as well. He's the full guy today for coming off half-time, but he's not the reason Liverpool were 2-0 down, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, he did obviously make way for Luis Diaz, who had quite a good impact coming on. What do you make of Luis Diaz's impact in that second half and how Liverpool improved?
Well, he's just done what he's done ever since he joined Liverpool. He makes things happen. And even then, he wasn't at his best. Like, he set up the equaliser with a great run and cut back to Firmino, who finished really well as well, by the way. But at times, his touch was heavy and things weren't quite coming off for him. You could tell it's been a far distance for him to travel in the international break, and he's looked a bit sluggish. But he is Liverpool's most informed forward at the moment when it's not happening for Salah and everything. They're going to need him to be fit. You can understand why he didn't start, because if he starts and gets an injury and you're out with him for 3 weeks, a month, then you're really struggling. They need to protect their players. But they're in this situation now where you've got the 2-3 players who are in form. When you take them out, Liverpool suffer for it. It's not really a surprise seeing Diaz play that well, though, and make that impact, because he's done that ever since he joined the club back in January, right from making his debut. I think, was it against Cardiff, when he came on and set up a goal straight away, when he didn't speak the language or anything. It's a special signing, and you just need a few more of his teammates to pick up the slack and put in performances like that alongside him.
Yeah, you mentioned as well another top performer for Liverpool today, Alisson, made a few really important saves, and I don't think you can get a finer example of just how important it is having a great goalkeeper at that top level than comparing him to obviously Brighton's keeper's error for their own goal, coming out, flapping at it, resulting in an own goal. So just how important, obviously we've waxed lyrical about him on the channel for years now, but just how important is Alisson in these tight games?
Yeah, he makes so many good saves, whether it's a strong hand or a strong foot. He's off his line so quickly. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And while none of them you'd say are camera saves, and you almost expect him to make the saves, it's when you see the replays back, it's like, that could have easily been a goal. He just goes about his business, no nonsense, and he makes saves you don't expect. But then he'll be fuming today, won't he? He's conceded 3. He's got a hand to 2 of the goals. He'll probably thinking deep down he should have maybe kept at least one of them out. I'm not saying that he was at fault for either of them. It's just unfortunate. They're both fierce shots from Trossard, but he's made some important saves. Best keeper in the world for a reason. Just needs to start getting some clean sheets. Otherwise, he's going to keep going to bed fuming. He's another one. He's the fall guy in this defence, isn't he? It doesn't matter how well he's playing when Liverpool's still conceding cheap goals. Just think how much worse it could be if he wasn't there.
Yeah, and finally, we'll just come on to the attack. Another couple of goals for Firmino. Just how important do you think he's been to the Reds? Obviously, Núñez is still settling in. Diogo Jota's only just making his comeback from an injury, and Roberto Firmino's really chipped in over these last few weeks with a fair few important goals.
Yeah, I think that was the sort. He's got 5 now for the season, joint 4th leading goal scorer in the Premier League. He's had his critics in the past about not scoring enough goals, not being clinical enough, and missing chances. I've just remembered now his header, which could have made it a hat-trick for him and would have been a winner for Liverpool today. But no, he's got 2 vital goals that have been really well taken. He's in the right position at the right time. Last year was a hard one for him. Like, he lost his place in the team. He had a lot of injuries and he was coming back. He couldn't find any rhythm. Before that, there's been the criticism that he doesn't score enough. We're seeing now a more relaxed Firmino, and he's been able to deliver the goals. He knows he's not the go-to man. He's playing week in, week out. He's got this point to prove when you've got Jota and Núñez there breathing down his neck. And it's good for Liverpool that he can provide these goals because he's got a World Cup place to play for. He's got a contract to play for. He has got a point to prove. And Liverpool needs those goals today. But at the same time, he isn't going to be first choice, you think, when everyone's fit and firing. You'd expect Jota to be there or Núñez to be there. It's just, thankfully, he can step up and get the goals when you need him. Like, he's had to adjust to this role that we were maybe seeing Origi or Minamino do in the past 18 months. But there's still life in Firmino yet. He can still get a few goals as he's proven in these first few weeks of the season.
Yeah, here's hoping he can keep on chipping in with these important goals. But that is all we've got time for on the debrief today. Theo, thanks for joining me. Make sure everyone to check out all the rest of the matchday content going out across the Blood Red channel and Liverpool.com. But from myself and Theo Squires, it's goodbye for now.